Hello there. I want to talk to you a little bit about safety when using a knife, and I'm going to use this Victorinox folding knife as an example, but much of this applies to any type of knife, but there are some specific to folding knives that don't lock that you need to understand. The first thing about a knife is you should keep your knife sharp. The reason being is a sharp knife cuts easier and smoother than a dull knife, and if you have to exert a ton of pressure to cut something, the chances of it slipping and not being able to control the sweep. Okay, if I'm pressing really hard, if I've got the knife and I'm pressing really hard to cut something, well, when it finally does break free, it's going to move like that, and trying to stop that motion takes a lot more energy. A lot of times you're not going to stop it before it reaches something over here, and if that happens to be your hand or your leg or something like that, well then you're going to get cut. Or if there happens to be somebody over that way, they're going to get cut. Similarly, you should never cut towards your body, toward any part of your body, or toward in the direction of anything that you do not want to cut. And it doesn't matter how easy you think the cut's going to be. That's like saying, well, I thought the gun was empty. Well, it doesn't matter. It's the same with a knife. Your safe practice is never to cut toward anything that you don't want cut, and particularly not to cut towards yourself, because you're going to cut yourself. Some people do it all the time. You see people, they're cutting something, a piece of rope or something, they're cutting like this. You're cutting directly towards your face. Okay, cut it, cut away from your face, turn it this way, and don't pull up like this. You want to protect yourself and anybody else around you when you're using the knife. Now, another thing, and I'm just using this as an example, with a folding knife, there are a couple of things you need to keep in mind. This knife does not have any kind of lock to the blade, okay? It folds, opens and closes very easily, and there's nothing to stop this motion. So when you cut with this knife, you always want to cut in such a way that you're keeping some backward pressure against this joint here, back this way, never like this. So when you cut, you don't want to cut straight down. Okay, you don't want to cut straight down like that, because it very easily, you see how that's bending? It would take nothing. So if you got to do that, you want to do it like this. You want to, so that you're keeping pressure here. Similarly, when you cut in the long direction, okay, you should never cut with this knife in such a way, not even for a second, where there's any kind of pressure toward the front of this pivot. In other words, the tip of the blade. Because if you know how to sharpen a knife, you'll cut yourself to the bone if you're not careful. If this thing folds on your hand, I promise you, it will not end well if your knife is properly sharp. And a dull knife is not worth spit. One of the best grime removers is a little bit of spit, okay? Remember when your mom used to clean your face by licking her finger and rubbing it on the dirty spot? Why? Because spit cleans really fast. It gets stuff off. So that's more useful than a dull knife. So, but the thing is you have to be consciously aware with this type of knife that there's this action here. It's made to open and close easily. and positively. You hear that? Okay, once it reaches a certain point, it's made to do that. So when you cut with it, you have to keep that in mind. Otherwise, you're going to injure yourself. You also need to understand how strong is your blade. Look, if I'm cutting and I'm putting a huge undue amount of pressure on a small blade like this, I could snap this blade. I could snap it here. I could snap it back here where it joins the knife. And I promise you, if you snap that blade 9 times out of 10, you're going to slice yourself up. So you have to also take into account the knife and what it was meant to do. And trying to push a knife past what it was designed for is another way to hurt yourself and those around you. So these are just simple, everyday cautions that you should take with a knife to keep yourself and others around you safe and to extend the value and the use of the knife. All right. Bless you. I'll talk to you later.